Let's first of all understand what is the fundamental desire of any human being. All human beings have two fundamental desires. Everyone, including myself and yourself and everybody else in this world, has two fundamental desires. We all want to exist. None of us wants to die. We want to exist. We want to live. We want to maintain our being. And we want to grow. Only existence is not enough. Because the man who is in coma in an ICU is also has an existence. But nobody wants that kind of existence. We want to live and we want to grow, right? So we want to grow in terms of our family, our knowledge, our wisdom, wealth, money, position, title, success. We want to achieve all of that and more of that. So existence and growth are two fundamental needs of any human being for that matter. In that context, if our primary desire is to exist and grow, anything that is a threat to our existence or anything that is a threat to our growth or expansion in life is something that we really get bothered about, right? So if we believe there is something, if we know that there could be a potential risk to our life, to our health, to our very existence, we could be bothered. That could create, some impact in our mind. Similarly, if we believe that anything could stop us from potentially growing, that could cause problems for us. If we believe that a particular job may not allow me to grow, a particular manager will not allow me to grow, a particular colleague or a situation or an event or a project or a program which could potentially hinder my growth, that could bother me. In simple layman's language, we can say anything that is a threat or a perceived threat to our existence and growth can potentially trigger stress, anxiety, and depression. This is, in a very simple language, we can understand. All of us have desires to exist and grow, and anything that could cause problems for our existence and growth could potentially lead to stress, anxiety, and depression. Sheikh, I see you've raised your hand. We will have a Q&A towards the end, and I will try and answer questions that you may have.
No, it wasn't a hand raise. I just did thumbs up because I liked what you said. It was a thumbs up.
Okay. Thank you so much, Shikha. So we'll continue. So now let's try to go a little deeper and understand this more. So stress, depression are different states of mind triggered by, right? So external stimuli or external impulses are the ones that could cause disruption, resistance, and growth. That cause stress, anxiety, and depression. So now let's understand this a little. And my attempt is to explore deep inside ourselves rather than go out and look for solutions. So this session is not about techniques around mindfulness, the 333 technique, the various other techniques experts today talk about. This session is about leading from within. This session is about going inside us to understand who we are, what are the stimuli that we receive, and how do we deal with that? So each one of us is a combination of these three, right? You have your soul, you have a body, and you have your mind, right? Let's understand each one of them a little better. The body is a physical form, right? And soul is the vital force, is the life force. If the soul does not exist, the body has no existence either. So the body comes alive because of the soul. It's like an electric wire. When we pass current, electricity through that wire, we call it a live wire because the wire comes alive, right? So the electric current which is flowing through the wire is like the life force. It's like the soul which is in motion in the physical body, which is the wire. So our body is our gross form, and our soul brings it into motion. If there is no soul, our body, is essentially dead. Now the mind. The mind is like a television screen. It's a display board, right? It tells us at any point in time what's going on within us. It's like when you switch on the television screen, you see a cricket match going on, and then you change the channel, and then you see a movie, and you switch to another channel, and then you see probably a television serial, or you switch on to another channel, you probably see a documentary movie and all that. So at any point in time, what is going on the screen is what you get to see. So mind is exactly like that. It's a display board, right? It tells you how you're feeling at that point in time. What's going on inside your mind? Are you anxious? Are you feeling confident? Are you feeling envious? Are you feeling jealous? Right? What's going on within you? What's your state of mind? Your mind tells you. Mind is like a display board, right? But this is at a very high level. This is from a very layman's perspective to understand soul, body, and mind. But when you talk about yourself, when I talk about myself, each one of us is a combination of all three, because the soul needs the body. It's like the electric current to flow needs a wire, right? Without the wire, the current cannot flow. So it's need a physical form through which it can come alive. And the body gets its meaning, its life, because it is charged with the soul or with the spirit. And then the mind, which reflects everything what is going on inside us. Now we'll go a little deeper. In this context of all of this, how do you look at life? If you look at life as a distance that we cover from our birth to our death, so basically it's a distance that we cover through our life journey, right? So if you are going in a train, it's like one station to another station. When the train starts, it's like you take birth. And when the train stops at the next station, it's like the journey, that particular leg of the journey comes to an end. Maybe one more journey begins again, but that is a death right? We're not getting into life after death, life before birth, because that's not the scope of our discussion today. But essentially, understand life again in layman's language, it's a journey from birth to death, right? So if life is a journey, then we all are travelers, isn't it? Each one of us is a traveler. We are on a journey. We're traveling. Our journey has already started. We don't exactly remember when the journey started. We know because our parents told us when it started, and we don't know how long the journey would continue. But we know that we are in a journey, and we all are travelers, right? So, traveler to be able to travel probably needs a powerful vehicle, right? You all would agree that we need a vehicle. And the vehicle today, the most sophisticated vehicles have got very powerful computers, right? Which essentially runs the vehicle. And you also need when an aircraft is flying, it also has powerful sensors because it has to sense the weather conditions, whether there's going to be rain, whether there's going to be a storm, or there's going to be a different weather condition, or you need to get into a space where you should not get in, or unwanted getting into your space or your territory. So you need the sense your environment, impulses from your environment, like whether the impulses could be a storm, it could be tailwind, it could be headwind, it could be range, all these pulses and stimuli from the environment. So your vehicle, your flying machine, has very powerful sensors. And as a traveler, as a operator of your machine or a vehicle, you also need a lot of tools. And then your powerful vehicle has plenty of tools which will help you, run the vehicle very, very efficiently and effectively and navigate through all, challenges, the terrains and the difficult, the mountain ranges and all of that. And then you also have a powerful dashboard which tells you everything that's going on in your vehicle, the fuel, the volume. It talks about the health of your vehicle and and how are you progressing. You can see everything on the display, right? So if life is a journey and you are a traveler, what is your vehicle? Your vehicle is nothing but your your vehicle is nothing but your body. And you as a traveler, you are nothing but your soul. Understand that you are your soul. You are the driver. You are the traveler who is traveling. Your body is your vehicle, which is taking you forward. And your vehicle has a supercomputer, that is your brain. And you've got powerful sensors. These are nothing but your sense organs. And you've got powerful tools. These are your values, your intelligence, your self-confidence, your conscience, your attitude, your traits. These are your tools, your skills. And what's the dashboard? The dashboard is your mind, which tells you how you're feeling, what is your state of mind, what emotions you're experiencing. Are you feeling confident? Are you feeling stressed? Are you feeling surprised? Are you in a state of shock, anger, jealousy, happiness, excitement? That dashboard tells you how you feel. So this is the powerful vehicle, and you are the soul, the traveler of the vehicle, right? So now you will, in a while, you will understand why we're talking about all this in the context of stress, anxiety, depression, the topic that we have picked up. Right? Now, we talked about the stimuli from the environment. various impulses. We said these could potentially cause stress, right? But let's understand what happens when we receive a stimuli. But before that, all of us must understand and realize that our entire life, all our life, every moment, we receive stimulus from our environment and we respond to that stimulus. Every sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously. Is a mosquito bite stimulus from your environment? That's an impulse that you get. You feel pain in your body. Your hand unconsciously goes away to drive the mosquito away. Your hand goes to drive the mosquito away. So there is a stimulus, a mosquito bite. There is a response and driving the mosquito away. That's just an example. Every moment, stimulus and we respond. We feel hot, we stand up. Few minutes ago before the session, I was feeling hot. I stood up. I went to the switchboard and I switched on the fan. There's a stimulus and I responded. I am now talking to you. Every sentence that I am saying is a stimulus and you're responding. In your mind, you are agreeing, disagreeing, you are rejecting, you are approving, you are acknowledging, you are responding to every single thing that I am saying. Maybe you're responding with your inattention, sometimes with your attention. Even inattention is also a response because you choose to respond it that way. So every moment we experience, we receive stimulus from the environment, and every moment we respond. Now, let's understand in the context of who we are and how does it play out. So when we receive a stimulus, it is first perceived by our sense organ, right? If a mosquito bites, we experience it through our skin, which is also a sense organ, right? If there is a beautiful flower which is spreading aroma, we experience that we receive that stimulus, the beautiful aroma, through our nose, right? If we see something, we experience that, we receive that through our eyes. So every stimulus is received by us through our sense organs. It is like the powerful flying machine, the aircraft, receives weather information through the sensors it has. Our sensors are our sense organs. Every moment we receive stimulus. Now, we respond, right? But it is not as straightforward as that. Because the stimulus could be the same, but response could be different from different people. A mosquito could bite you, it could bite me, it could bite your friend, it could bite somebody else, and each one of us could respond very differently. If it bites me, I may choose to drive it away, right? I may just do like this. Somebody else may choose to kill it. That could be another response, right? Somebody would probably is very non-violent by nature, would decide, well, I will probably use a mosquito net. Let mosquitoes roam around, I don't care, but I need to protect myself. But I'm not going to kill them, but I'm going to protect myself by using a mosquito net. Right? Same stimulus, same impulse, but the response is different, right? So now the question is why? Why does this happen? We need to understand that. Because when we receive a stimulus, it is received by our sense organ, then it goes to our brain. And our brain decides how to respond. It is the brain which has the power of decision making it decides how to respond. But if each one of us has a brain, why each one of us decide very differently? We decided very differently because there is something that happens between the sense organ and the brain, right? Every stimulus that we receive through our sense organs first gets diverted to our beliefs, habits, complexes, mindsets. They color the impulse that we receive, right? They give it a different color. So brain, which is very powerful, takes a decision based on the color that it sees, right? So if the object that it sees is actually white, but before it reaches the brain, if our belief, mindset, complexes, etc., have already colored it as green, the brain will see it as green. That's how brain will see it, right? Because brain is a very powerful machine, and it can distinguish, it can identify the color, and in this case, it identifies that green is the color, and it does the right identification. But there is a devil that was between the sense organ and the brain, which has already given it a different color, and then what brain is actually seeing it is very different. These are our beliefs, our habits, our complexes, our desires, our mindset. They cause problems. Either they help us or they create problems for us. If a mindset is growth mindset, our response could be very different. If you have got a fixed mindset, our response could be different. If you're lazy by habit, our response will be different. Even if the alarm bell goes off, we kind of switch it off and then continue to sleep, because that's what habitually we are. But if you're very agile, hardworking by habit, then our response will be very different. So it's between is the stimulus that we receive that gets colored right after it is received through our sense organs, before it reaches the brain, and brain takes a decision based on the color based on the color, the shape and size that we're given to the stimulus. And if it actually sees a distorted impulse or stimulus, the decision making also gets distorted. Now I'm sure you would have started to understand the cause of our stress, anxiety, and depression, and why we find it very difficult to come out of it, because our brain believes this is what it is. The brain believes this is what I'm experiencing. The brain believes that I'm good for nothing. The brain believes that I'm helpless, right? When there is a bereavement, the brain believes that I have, it's the end of my life as well. If I have lost a competition, or if I have failed in the exam, sometimes my brain believes that is the end of the road for me. It is the way it has been colored and shaped and in the kind of distorted or magnified in whichever way. Sometimes the brain probably looks at it positively, sometimes the brain looks at it very differently. And then based on the picture it sees, and it decides on the appropriate response, and the soul responds accordingly, because for the soul, brain is a very powerful machine, and the brain is a supercomputer that it has. Now, what happens? When the stimulus is received through the sense organs, in our brain, in our mind, it causes certain thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And some of those guide our decision making and action. The word emotion essentially has the word motion inside it. So it is emotion that puts us into motion, nothing else. It is not our intelligence. It is not our logic. It is not our wisdom. What actually puts us in motion is our emotion, right? If you are angry, you probably go and hit somebody, right? Your anger is putting you in motion. If you're kind, you go out and help somebody. Your kindness is actually, putting you in motion, right? So your emotions, your feelings are actually driving your actions. Let's understand, because when you are actually driven by emotions, logic doesn't work there, intelligence doesn't work there, conscience doesn't work there. Only thing that works is your emotions. So when you are experiencing anxiety, stress, depression, that drive our action. That's where the vicious circle begins. If I'm feeling anxious, if I'm feeling stressed, that drives my action. What I do, I keep away from my friends. I stop talking to people. I go into isolation. What happens? I become more depressed. I become more stressed. I become more anxious. So the vicious cycle continues, right? So it's once emotions start dominating our mind and brain, it slowly and slowly and slowly dominates our consciousness, right? Our consciousness becomes low, and these emotions start dominating us. Our soul is nothing but our consciousness. What is the soul? Spiritual leaders, philosophers, scientists, all of them have tried to describe soul in different ways. But essentially, soul is nothing but our consciousness, right? So you are the traveler. You are the conscious traveler. You are the soul. You need conscious that you have a body and it behaves like this. You have a mind, it behaves like this. You have sense organs, this is what they do. You have your intelligence, conscience, your wisdom, your knowledge. They are your tools at your disposal to use them. You have your thoughts, feelings, your emotions, your anxiety, stress, etc. They are the brakes that could put brakes on your journey. But you also need brakes. You can't drive a car without brakes. While they can slow you down, but you still need them. We also need our emotions, we need our feelings, we need our thoughts. But the moment they start dominating the soul, our consciousness, then we lose control. We completely lose control. We become helpless. We become very hopeless. In spite of having all the tools at our disposal, our conscience, our intelligence, our traits, our skills, everything we have. It's like the nervous they talk about, the most powerful batsmen become nervous when they're in the 90s and they get out quickly because, it's the emotions, the pressure of the situation that dominate their consciousness. They start believing that now we cannot proceed from here on, right? They cannot achieve the landmark. And what happens if they don't achieve the landmark? Consequences of not achieving the goal. All those thoughts start dominating their consciousness, right? We as travelers, we as souls will have to awaken. The moment you awaken that consciousness, we know that these are the tools at our disposal. This is the body. This is how he behaves. This is how I need to keep my body fit. This is my brain. This is how I need to make it agile and active. These are my sense organs. This is how I can make them more sensitive and powerful. These are my tools. I must use them at all times, both at good and bad times, when I'm feeling low and when I'm feeling confident. This is the mind, which is nothing but a display of what's going on inside me. So I think That's where the most important aspect of getting into um, taking charge of yourself and saying, hey, I will not let any of this take charge. I will now have to elevate myself to take charge. So now, my spiritual guide is Sri Thakur Anukul Chandra. I just want to share a quick anecdote from his from one of his days when he was in flesh and blood. One of his disciples came to him once and told him that Guruji, I'm in deep stress. I'm in depression. I'm having severe anxiety problems. Please help me deal with these problems. Guruji replied. Guruji said something very simple yet very profound. He said, look, I'm sitting on a bench. Can I lift this bench sitting on it? If I continue to sit on the bench, I cannot lift the bench. The bench, then I have to separate myself from the bench, stand up, maybe at an elevated place, at a higher plane, and then bend and lift the bench. As long as I continue to sit on the bench, I cannot lift it. He then continued to say, said, look, if you attach yourself with your mind, you cannot elevate your mind. Like you cannot elevate the bench if you attach yourself to the bench. You have to separate yourself from the bench. Now, if you have to elevate your mind, you have to separate yourself from your mind. Be a witness to your mind. Separate yourself from your mind. Look at your mind as a witness and see what's going on in your mind. What's going on? Why is it going on? What is the reflection that I am seeing? What is the cause? What caused this state of mind? What is the consequence? What is the remedy? How can I be in charge? As long as you are with the mind, you cannot control your depression, anxiety, stress. You just have to separate yourself from the mind and start looking at mind very objectively, right? You have to imagine that you and your mind are two separate entities, and you are, because you are the soul, and body and mind are two powerful tools at your disposal, right? The soul is supposed to drive the body and the brain, and the mind and the brain. It's not the other way around. The problem is when the mind and body start controlling the soul, right? And then the soul loses its consciousness. All we need to do is elevate our consciousness. If you have to elevate our consciousness, we cannot stay attached to our mind and then try to elevate it. We just have to separate ourselves from our mind. It's about elevating our consciousness. So the most important aspect of the journey is understanding self, understanding the different elements of ourselves, understanding our soul, understanding our body, understanding our brain, how it operates, understanding our sense organs, the powerful sensors that we have, understanding the tools at our disposal, understanding the dashboard, the mind, the display screen, understanding how we receive stimuli and how we respond. What defines our life journey? What defines our progress? What defines our ability to deal with stress, anxiety, etc., is our ability to respond to every stimuli, every stimulus or impulse appropriately. As I said, every individual responds to stimulus, every single stimulus very differently. But the way you respond defines your destiny, because life is all about a series of stimulus and impulse. A series of impulses and responses. A series of impulses and responses. this impulse that we receive and the response that we give shapes our thoughts, our beliefs, it forms our mindset, it defines who we become as an individual, as a person. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's all about stepping back, looking at ourselves holistically, looking at our body, brain, our powerful sense organs, how sensitive they are, looking at the tools at our disposal, looking at our mind, understanding, diving deeper into habits, our complexes, our mindset, and separating ourselves at the time of at the time of very strong feelings and emotions when we experience that, separate that and looking at it as to what causes this, what has caused it, and what is the remedy. You have the answer. It is to receive to us decides how we eventually, what we eventually experience, because our life is neutral. Our life is neutral. Life is like water. If you add green color, the water becomes green. If you add red, the water looks red. If you add blue, the water looks blue. If you add powerful, beautiful aroma, the water smells beautiful. And if you, add some bad, smell to it, the water smells bad. So water has no smell of its own. It has no color of its own. What we add to it, it becomes that. Exactly that. What we add to life. If you add happiness to life, it becomes a happy life. If you add misery to life, it becomes a miserable life. Because if you go to 5 different people and ask each one of them what is life, each one of them will give you a different answer because each one of them has given a different color to their life. It's time that we step out, look at life obviously, and step back and then fight. That is the first step towards elevating our consciousness. What I attempted to do was to give a very, very broad overview of the whole concept I wanted to present, but it's a very deep and very profound and very, very complex and is a large topic, right? We need to probably talk on this for 2 days or even more than that. We'll still not be able to go in depth. That's the profoundness of this topic. But I wanted to kind of trigger the thought process in you. Just want to ignite the thought process, ignite your mind, because that's where the journey begins. You don't need any external help, because it's all from within. It's about self-awareness. Of course, you can find a guru, a mentor, teacher who can guide you, but you have to take the path yourself and elevate your consciousness. So with this note, I will stop here for any questions that you may have. I'll be happy to try and answer them.
In the meanwhile, I will share that test, a small quick test which participants can take. So, hello everyone. So I've shared in the chat. So there's a small test, you can take it. As in the meanwhile, if anybody has any questions, so they can ask. So it is a simple small test. So there's a link.
So it's so Patil has shared the link. It's a small test. You can take the test. This will tell you what is your current stress level. If you have any, stress level at all, do have. Because we live in very complex worlds today. This will give you, what you are experiencing today. Do take the test as we continue this Q&A session. You have 2 options. You can put your question in the chat window, or you can unmute and ask your question. Either way, it's fine. But now the floor is open for questions.
I think Shika has raised hand, so if you have any question, Shika, you could ask.
Yes, Shikhai, please go ahead.
Yeah, I have couple of questions. First one
Yes.
is mind same as brain or it is different?
It's not the same as brain. Mind is as I said, is a display board, right? All the time, our mind is alive. It's is active. We are talking, speaking, listening. Something or other is going on in our mind. It reflects our thoughts. It reflects our emotions. It displays what is the state of our feelings, emotions, thoughts, etc. What's going on mentally. Brain is again very complex. Brain is like a computer. It's a powerful processor which processes information, receives all the stimuli and impulses from the environment through the sense organs. It processes them. It takes decisions. It gives instructions to our body to take appropriate action, and so on. So it's a computer at work, right? But mind is a display board. It's just telling us what's going on inside us.
Okay, thank you. And the next question is, you said whenever we feel a negative emotion, we should step back, right? But how to step back is the question.
Yes. For that, definitely we need an exclusive session on that. That's a pretty profound topic. The best way to step back is the first step is to develop your self-awareness, right? First of all, we need to understand and have the conviction that your mind and your body and yourself are separate entities. And all of you coming together might be forming who you are. But if you look at yourself, your soul, or the spirit and the body and mind, they're separate. So they're already separate. But we do not realize that. And we believe that it's what's going on in my mind, what's going on in my body is what I am. So how do you really separate ourselves? See, when you're flying in an aircraft and when you look down, it's very difficult to distinguish between mountains, buildings, ponds. Everything look the same. And it's very difficult to say which is taller, which is shorter, which is big, which is small, because they all look very similar and they seem to be at the same plane. It happens that way because you are at a very, very higher plane. Similarly, when you take your consciousness to a very higher plane, and when you look down, whether somebody is appreciating you, somebody is reprimanding you, somebody is respecting you, somebody is disrespecting you, that really doesn't bother you much because you are already at a higher plane, right? You do not distinguish between these things too much. I'm not saying that you do not acknowledge appreciation or disregard insult. I'm not saying that. You need to probably know, but that should not affect you. That should not affect you. That should not affect who you are. If it affects you, then your consciousness goes down, right? And if you are not conscious, you will not be able to take appropriate, judicious decisions because it is your consciousness that helps you take the right decisions. So it's always important to elevate your consciousness and keep it at a higher plane. So there's a very interesting story I remember. A man came to Lord Buddha and then and for whatever reasons he started shouting at Buddha. He scolded him, right? And Buddha was calm and composed. He did not say anything. After shouting and scolding, reprimanding Buddha for some time, The man then became quiet because he was tired. Then Buddha asked him. He said, suppose you bring a gift to me, and I do not accept that gift. What happens? The man said, well, if you don't accept the gift stays with me. That is mine. If you don't take it, that remains with me, right? I take it back. So Lord Buddha said, look, all the reprimand, all the scolding that you gave me just now, I'm not accepting any of this. What happens to them now? The man said, oh, okay. So all of these have come back to me now, right? Great example of very higher level of consciousness, like what Lord Buddha demonstrated.
Yes, beautiful example that very well answers the question.
Yes. I think it's just being aware of what's happening around us. And then sometimes it is because of the nature of our brain. We know about this amygdala hijack that we have been reading about. It is emotions that actually, kind of hijacks our brain quickly, right? So that's where I think our consciousness is very, very important. We need to have that consciousness at play all the time. The moment we lose grip on that, we become slave to everything, to our thoughts, emotions, feelings, mostly negative ones, very, very quickly.
Okay, thank you, sir. And last question. You said the way we respond to an external stimuli, that depends on our habits, right?
Yeah.
So how are these habits formed? That's the question.
Yeah. There's a philosopher who said you call it habit because you want to have it. So, we know about that mechanism which says, you get a cue, and then if it is rewarding, then that kind of brings you back to the moment you have the same cue or the same trigger again, you look for the same reward, and then, eventually you are enslaved by that habit. So habits are formed unconsciously, consciously, mostly unconsciously, from our childhood. What we see our parents doing, how our parents groom us, all these are, powerful grounds where habits get formed, right? If our parents do everything for us, and they become very, very worried if the kids have to take any hardships, they say, hey, you don't have to do anything, I'm there to take care of you, then we slowly become lazy, right? I'm just giving an example. So habits get formed very, very unconsciously, and I think early part of our life, it depends on the grooming of our parents. At the later part of our life, it's the company that we have, our family members, the friends at school or colleges, all the bad habits that we pick up, smoking, drinking, whatever, some of that come through the companionship that we have, right? So that's why answer to that is spirituality. A spiritual inclination, kind of laying down a spiritual path for children by parents is very, very important from the childhood, because it is the spiritual power alone that can help you understand yourself, because it's spirituality which tells you that you are not your body and not your mind, you are your soul. Nothing else tells us, because everyone else in this universe tells us that, Surya, you are so and so, you are a senior executive in such in a large multinational company. They tell you that you are a businesswoman, you are a leader, you are a politician, you are so and so. But these are the roles that we play. But the real me is my soul, right? Everything else is the role that I'm playing. So it's only spirituality that tells us that. So and in the absence of spiritual consciousness, what happens is our self-awareness becomes poor. We start believing that we are the role that we are playing. then what happens? We become attached to the role, right? We need to be attached to a soul, to a consciousness, not to the position that I'm playing in my organization, because that role will not remain tomorrow. But if I believe that I am that role, I am the head of this function in this company. The moment that position goes away, I feel a very strong sense of depression and stress, because there's a sense of loss that I feel, right? And that's the primary cause of anxiety and stress. It is the sense of loss is the primary cause of anxiety and stress. It could be a real loss, it could be a perceived loss, but that is a primary cause of anxiety. But if you are self-conscious and you realize that you are your soul, then, having possessions in your life and not having them really doesn't bother them, because you believe that you are a traveler, right? And you have powerful tools at your disposal to navigate through the journey. And whatever happens along the way, you get a position, get a role, you play the role of a father, mother, wife, husband, whatever, you just play that role and you are not attached to anything else. Very powerful, profound, in-depth, but the real source of strength comes from there, nothing else. Everything else is at a superficial level. All the techniques that that we keep hearing about and talking about, a lot of them are, I'm not saying all of them, but many of them are actually at a superficial level. It really do not go to the roots. That's where the problem.
So I know we are almost at the end of the session, but I had a question. So we generally hear this quote where they say that don't choose a job, choose a manager. But for some reason, some people do find themselves, where there is unfavorable response from their managers or the bosses. So in that kind of situation, how do we apply these? Look at this, given the things what we spoke, and is there a way? I don't know if where one could check what stress level they are. Like you gave one test right now. So in generic, whether instead of going at the fag and where they are at a higher stress levels, even before that, if there is a possibility to test themselves, at what stress levels they could be.
No, yeah, I would like to answer that very differently. You neither choose your manager nor your job. Don't worry about it, right? Because don't try to choose your impulse or stimulus, because don't have control over it all the time. Sometimes you have control, not always, but you choose your response to that. Even if you have a bad manager, okay, how would you respond? If you have a good manager, how would you respond? If you have a good job, how do you respond? If you have a bad job, how do you respond? It's your response that matters. Not about going back and saying, I had this situation and then the situation is the cause of my problem. The manager is the cause of my problem. I don't look at it that way. Because you don't choose your managers really most of the time. So how do you respond to situations, to individuals, to people, their behaviors? I think that is what matters. And then it's all about strengthening your power in that regard. If an opportunity to choose a job, choose a manager, you may do that. But I wouldn't personally worry too much about it. In my 25 plus years of experience, I've got many managers have played roles in different organizations, performed various jobs. I look at every job as a great learning opportunity, which was a stepping stone in my career. I look at every manager who also played a role in shaping who I am. Primarily, I focused on choosing how do we respond to both of them. That's how I would put it. So that's where you are in control.
Great, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for a very insightful and inspiring session. So I'm sure all the participants, have benefited out of this. So I want to extend thank you to you.